Hey everyone, welcome to Intellectual Horsepower. I'm Engine Builder Editor Greg Jones, and I'm joined as always by Technical Editor Brendan Baker. And you may have noticed to my left, we've got a special guest in studio today. A guy who needs no introduction, Clay Millican. Clay, thanks for having us.
I am glad to be here. I am a little bit nervous. Anything that involves the name intellectual anything. A little nerve-wracking for a guy that stomps on the loud pedal for a living. But
don't worry, they let us in here, so you're all right.
You're in good company. But,
all right.
Now, I said Clay doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to do my best. He's a lifelong drag racer. He's a Hall of Famer in IHRA Top Fuel. He's been in NHRA Top Fuel for a long time as well. He's got 6 World Championships to his name, and really glad that you're here. And because of that, we want to dive in, talking a little bit about you and your drag racing season that you're currently in. You're doing pretty well. You're in the top 10 right now, right?
Yep, we are.
So can you talk a little bit about how this season's been going and, how the sponsorship with Parts Plus has been?
Yeah, I mean, this is my 11th year with Parts Plus. It's been a wonderful partnership. They've become more like family than just, business partners. But the race season, we have been very much like a Duncan yo-yo, up, down, up, down, up, down. We've struggled and we've done good. We've had a final round appearance at 4 wide in Vegas, and it's weird to say I finished 3rd in a drag race, but that's possible at the 4 wide. But overall we've ran good at times, and other times we've just struggled with consistency. But that is nitro racing. Those things are very, very particular about how they want to go down the racetrack, and they will tell you. You just got to learn how to listen.
Yeah. Now, Clay, obviously you've been in drag racing a long, long time, and you started at a young age. But is it true that you used to drive a forklift for Kroger?
For 11 years, I did everything from pulling orders, which is kind of what you do when you first start there, pulling grocery orders. I actually finished my career in Kroger before I became a big-time pro racer as what was called the porter, which means I was the janitor. And it was actually my favorite job there. But I spent the majority of my time driving a forklift. I can hop on a stand-up lift. I can get a sit-down lift. I got a little practice.
You know how
driving
to
a
make
forklift.
that thing work, right? So
and unfortunately, I was on first-name basis with everybody in the forklift shop back there. I might have been a little rough on them.
Right. Well, just like race cars, you got to tear up the equipment. You got
to find the limitations.
You got to find the limit, exactly.
Well, it's very cool. You got the forklift license. You were saying that you had a CDL, and you're driving one of the fastest dragsters that there is. That's awesome.
It is. I keep my CDL, but I try not to let the team know about it too much. But if we get into a situation, somebody gets sick or hurt or something like that, I can, if I have to, still hop in there and change a lot of gears.
Yeah,
right.
That's great. Clay, I was curious if there are specific drivers who have influenced you, maybe when you were first starting out, and I don't know if that's changed now that you've been in drag racing for a long time.
Absolutely. There's several drivers that, I looked up to. Number one being my dad. He was not a pro racer, but he certainly was the guy behind honing my skills, so to speak. Not in a Top Fuel car, because he never drove one, but I looked up to Richard Petty, which you would think I'm a drag racer, but I don't. But I love, what Richard Petty means to motorsports, period. I love how he signs autographs, and I try to kind of model behind that, and sign as many autographs as I possibly can.
You do that swoopy thing, like
his signature is
he's got
beautiful.
a cool signature. He taught a lot of guys how to sign. Like a lot of guys got that really nice looking script because you're signing stuff all the time.
So I learned, and this is a whole different story, not really on your question, but I did a question, like a 10-question thing for Speed Sport magazine years ago. And one of the questions was, if you could meet anybody, who would it be? Well, I said Richard Petty. Well, they arranged for that to happen.
Oh, wow.
So I'm supposed to be there, let's say 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, I show up at 8. I'm not going to miss this opportunity. In level cross at the home shop, the original. This was a long time ago. So I go to the museum waiting for what time I'm supposed to meet with Richard. And there's these 2 awesome little old ladies working in there. They run the museum. Turns out they're his aunts. And I said something about the signature, like it's distinguishable anywhere. And they're like, son, he got sent to school to learn how to sign like that. So he actually was taught how to do that. But it's beautiful.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is a beautiful signature.
Yeah.
But so Richard Petty was probably, at one of the top of the pages. But there's been, other guys that, as I got older, that I really looked up to, and then some as I got to know, maybe not so much.
Yeah. That
good.
happens too. The bubble gets burst a
Yeah.
little bit.
Right.
You know.
Richard Petty did not disappoint.
No,
I want
yeah.
to say that.
He's a
I got
genuine
to spend over an hour with him, and he did not disappoint. But he is the cowboy hat wearing sunglass guy, even in the shop.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've gone to see him on PRI over the years a number of times, and he's always walking around there. So we've gotten our fair share of
I got to
chances
meet him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was excited about that.
He's
as
a great
well.
guy.
6.5 foot tall and a half inch
Yeah.
wide.
Right.
Right,
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Very
You turn
accurate.
sideways, you're like, where'd he go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been racing for a very long time, so I'm curious, is there a year that stands out for you in drag racing, or just a great memory, throughout the years in drag racing that
Oh man, that's a
can share?
tough question.
Yeah, I know.
My IHRA time was phenomenal. We raced. That's where I started my career full time as a top fuel driver. And what we did there in 7 years is not supposed to happen. We won 6 straight world championships from '01 to '06. And I'm a horrible statistician, but this is fairly easy to remember. My first year was 2000. And I finished second in points my very first season, and I lost the championship by less than half of a round of competition.
Wow.
Memories I can just blast. First Top Fuel win obviously was incredible, and it was against Shirley Muldowney. So that
wow.
was pretty
That's
cool.
pretty
It was
special.
obviously towards the
Absolutely.
tail end of her career, but
Yeah.
it's still Shirley Muldowney.
To say you even, raced against her and yet alone
Exactly.
beat her, I mean,
Exactly.
that's pretty neat.
So that's pretty huge. But without a doubt, the first NHRA win, nothing will ever top that. Winning Bristol on Father's Day weekend, being a parent who lost a child, that was
Oh, yeah.
spectacular. I
Right.
don't care what I ever do from here on out. I've won races since then.
Yeah.
But if you put me on the spot, biggest win ever, Father's Day weekend in Bristol, hands down.
And
Yeah.
that has a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'm gonna change gears on you.
Yeah.
Go from a high to maybe what might be a low, in terms of, what might be the scariest moment going down the drag strip. Is there a time that sticks out for you there?
Far as highlight reel material, this was not the scariest, but I get the question like, you ever crash?
Yeah.
I have. Luckily, it's only been, really one highlight reel, and you can look it up on YouTube. We did a one race sponsorship deal with Warner Brothers. I was sponsored by Warner Enterprises, one of the largest trucking companies in the world during my IHRA career. And we did a one race sponsorship deal for the movie Dukes of Hazzard.
Okay.
Dukes of Hazzard,
Yeah.
the Johnny Knoxville movie.
Oh, right.
The car was wrapped orange and had a 01 on the side of it. And I did a blowover. So I did a wheelie so high that the car actually flipped over backwards. Well, that wasn't, while that's a highlight reel and you can find that, that's not the scariest moment. I've had a couple others that luckily didn't turn into, YouTube material, but we're in Reading, Pennsylvania. I do a burnout, first round of elimination. We have a brake handle in the car. We don't have a brake pedal. The brake handle breaks off in my hand. So that was a little scary.
Yeah,
because
right.
We have
You're
no
like,
brakes, One of the other scariest, very early in my career, before I had won a race, this was a Monday actually in Reading, Pennsylvania again. I don't know what it is about that racetrack, but I made my way into the sand trap because of no brakes, and that was a Monday, nobody there to really see it. But it was my first opportunity to meet John Force. He was the first person there when I hit the catch net.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not sure that he was there to check on me because he was concerned or to see how long it was going to take for them to get the car out of the sand trap so he could continue testing. One or the other. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
Both could be true, right?
Yeah. But I did get to meet John Force in the sand trap.
That's the initial meeting of
Yeah.
John Force and Sand Trap.
Yeah,
that would
exactly.
be one to remember for sure.
Exactly. He knew his way there, by the way, so I think he's been there before.
been there a
Yeah.
few times, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Clay, I get why some of those other instances might be more scary than flipping over, but what's going through your head when you're going that fast and you're midair like that? Yeah.
Well, the blowover is quite a story. So, man, I know I get long-winded here, so I'm going to try to shorten this up. So I just told you about hitting the sand trap in Reading, Pennsylvania. The crew chief on that particular car was a guy named Mike Klober. Fast forward a few years, and we're doing the blowover in Milan, Michigan. The funniest part of that story is when I hit that catch net in Reading, Mike Klober comes down there and he puts his arm around me. Are you okay? You know, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, you're vibrating. And I was literally shaking all over. No brakes, going a couple hundred miles an hour, you know, whatever, hit a net. So now fast forward to the Dukes of Hazzard car. I flipped this thing over coming up on half track. It slid upside down backwards for over 2,000 feet. You know, it was scary looking, I'm sure, for those guys. For me, it was very quiet, very calm. I knew I had messed up. I knew I was crashing. I kept waiting on it to hurt, and it didn't. Well, for Mike Klober and my team standing on the starting line, all they see is the top fuel car flying in the air, flipping over and going backwards. And so the crew is not allowed to the driver when there's been a crash. You know, that's just the way it is. It's a rule. So I am unhurt, other than my pride because I had crashed the car, and it was my fault. They put me on a stretcher. They got me laying on the racetrack. They got a band across my forehead. You know, it's typical stuff. They're being very careful because I did just flip going a couple hundred miles an hour. And I asked one of the officials, would you let Mike Klober come over here and just he can let the team know I'm okay. So the first thing Mike gets to when he reaches me is my feet. I'm laying on the backboard on the ground of the racetrack. And he puts his hand on my ankle and his other hand like on my knee. And he's like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, Mike, you're vibrating. Because he was.
Oh, yeah.
He was shaking up. You know,
well, you're thinking the worst. You know?
So for me, that was just a quiet, weird, surreal. I can spend our whole show telling you about that crash, but it was very quiet.
You probably remember every millisecond.
It takes a long time to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
I gave you all the short version there.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's always amazing the safety in all of motorsports.
Yeah.
You know,
and it continually improves.
It's great. Now you mentioned Reading, Pennsylvania a few times. Do you have a favorite track that's out there, you know, on the NHRA circuit?
Bristol.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
It's
Bristol.
a cool track.
Bristol, for sure. My favorite IHRA track, hands down, is Rockingham. And part of the reason for Rockingham Dragway being my favorite was IHRA typically race there twice a year, beginning of the season at the end. Horrible statistician. I raced IHRA for 7 years. I think I went to the final there 12 times, won 11 of them, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
That was a pretty good luck charm for you.
I owned a piece of the rock, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, that place was,
Awesome.
was spectacular. But Bristol's my favorite. I can answer that question a lot of ways. If you ask me nicest facility, if I'm a fan, where should I go? I've got different answers for all that. But me personally, you know, Bristol is the super special. NHRA, IHRA is Rockingham.
Yeah. Excellent.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, Clay, you know, we were talking earlier again that a lot happens in the pits in between rounds. Do you have a favorite, maybe not favorite, but craziest memory of something going on with the car, the engine, you know, in between rounds that you can share with us?
That would take like an encyclopedia of stuff. I mean, I just mentioned Bristol a couple times. During my HRA career, we would bounce back and forth and run some NHRA races from time to time. At Bristol, actually, we had a huge explosion, semifinals. We couldn't even get the bell housing off of the back of the motor. It had broke the input shaft, which is what connects the motor through the clutch to the rear end. And it had wiped out the clutch to the point we couldn't get the bell housing off. Long story short, it was an absolute mad dash thrash. I got in the car, helmet on, seatbelts on, bolted in, ready to go, because they're not going to wait for you. You know, I mean, they're on a TV schedule. They're not going to wait. And there's on the television footage, you can see one of my crew guys riding on the car, tightening up bolts.
Wow.
As you're wheeling it into the lane.
Yep, as we're rolling to the lanes. Way behind schedule. Literally, he hopped off. They pushed it in the water box and fired it up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
those stories are endless. I mean, just a couple years ago, Epping, New Hampshire, we broke a bolt off in the front of the engine that helps hold the blower belt on. Live TV, semifinal round, and when they started the car up, I was pretty convinced the belt was going to fly off, but it didn't. Those stories are endless.
And you're sitting right behind, so you kind of hear, you're like, okay, which way is that going to go, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm very happy a lot of times knowing that motor's behind me, not like the funny car guy swears.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Clay, I have a question here about just the length of time it takes you guys to get down the track. It's, in the 3.5 second range, correct? What's even going through your head in that short amount of time?
If you are, gosh, so cliche to say, if you're in the zone, nothing. You're just reacting. You're not thinking. You're not, it's like, it's none of this, I'm going to do this or I should do that. You just do it. It just happens. It's like snow falling off a leaf, if that makes any sense.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and then it's over.
And it's over. And then you can replay it if you're on it. If you're not on it, the car gets in front of you, and you'll see the cars wiggling, the tail wagging, you get out of the groove, all these things. That's when you're not on it. When it feels really fast, a lot of times it's because you're not present. You're not in the moment.
Mm-hmm. That's the mindfulness of being right there.
Yeah.
All 100% of your focus is right there, right now, not what happened.
These things are so fast you can't think to keep up with them. They're too fast.
Right.
You have to just do it.
Now, so speaking of that, do you guys go through any training like that with your mind for staying in the right spot?
If you want to be good at it and do it as long as I have, you need to do that.
Yeah.
You need to have some mental preparation and maybe do a little studying here and there. And I'm not trying to give my competition any information,
right.
But you should study that sort of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. Probably early in my career, I was one of them. That I feel like I'm patting myself on the back, but had a little natural ability. But if you want to continue to get better, you need to work at it. And I've tried to do that that's how, I think this is my 23rd year driving a top fuel car. And every year I've tried to do something to improve myself. It's a never ending battle.
Yeah.
Because the older you get, the harder it gets, because it's not a thing with drag racing to where your reaction times slow down necessarily, but what happens is more and more things come into your life, and this is a Frank Holly thing. Frank Drag Racing School.
Yeah.
Holly's a great mental teacher as well, and he has this portion of a class that he gives that think of your brain as a box. So if you drew a box on a whiteboard, and you're the young kid, you're me in 1998, your first opportunity. You're young. You don't have many arrows in the box. You've got a race car in there. Okay, now let's fast forward 10, 15 years. Me, this is a little bit off on this timeline, but let's say you're that young kid. All right, you got that one arrow and it's the race car. Fast forward 10 years, if you've been able to maintain staying out there this long, you got wife, that's another arrow. You got a couple kids, that's a couple more arrows. You got 3 cars, that's 3 more arrows. You got life insurance, you got health insurance, house payment, blah, 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 blah. That box starts getting full, so it's harder and harder to clear the mechanism to steal a line out of the baseball movie.
Right.
That's probably one of the best analogies I think I've ever heard of that, because you always hear guys talking about, well, he got married and had a kid and he lost he's slower by a second. You know what I mean? Like he lost a click because that box is getting
it may
full.
not be ability, it's the mental side of it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that all this stuff would come out of a country boy from Drummond, Tennessee, would you?
Yeah, it's like your Yoda, I think,
That's all part of it. Now, Clay, something that, a phrase that you've gotten known for, and I know it's tied to your son a little bit, but stomp on that loud pedal. Can you talk a little bit about the history of that and, what it's meant to you over the years. That's
So-
become part of who you are.
Oh
out there
yeah,
on the-
it's definitely become a catchphrase that I use all the time. We use it on some of our merchandise that we sell, which we give all the money from our merchandise sales to animal rescue, by the way.
Oh, nice.
But where did that come from? Dalton, my son that we lost in 2015, he had heard that from me, but he kind of used that. He became a driver of the Blue Thunder, Monster Truck 4, Failed Entertainment, Monster Jam, all those sort of things. Well, there's a little video clip that I don't know what you would want to call it, like a hype clip. If you've ever been to a big Monster Jam show, they have these cool video clips they play. And
It's like the presenting clip. It's like
as the truck gets ready to drive out on there. Well, there's a little video clip of Dalton, doing this, and he's, it was kind of like, I'm gonna come out there and, show off for you fans, and I'm gonna stomp on that loud pedal. So that stuck with me and my wife, and it become, a thing, and we've run with it for years now. But it's a video, you can find it out there. I keep bringing up YouTube, but you can find that little clip of Dalton saying that, and that's where it come from.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
I
awesome.
know he probably heard it from me, but I didn't use it like that. But
Right.
for him, it was in his mind when he's doing this hype little video clip for the beginning of a Monster Jam show
Yeah.
of, I'm going
Because
to go
he
out
grew
there.
up probably hearing you talk, like,
Oh, yeah.
like
But-
that, so sure.
But it definitely, it's a Daltonism. We have a few of those. So, there's another one we don't use so much, but if you follow me on social media, you'll see a lot of my comments is a little POW sign.
Oh, okay.
So you'll see me put two of them, and it's pow pow. That's another little Daltonism. It's like, man, that looked good. Pow pow.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what that is
That's
as well.
cool.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent. It's excellent. No, it's a great catchphrase, and it's cool that you're.
And it fits.
Yeah.
It fits.
Absolutely.
Can I tell a quick story right quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm in the staging lanes in Pomona, California 3 or 4 years ago, whatever, 5 years ago, doesn't matter. And, I'm sitting in the tow vehicle, 4 or 5 pairs back, about 4 pairs away, I start putting all my gear on. Well, this gentleman comes up, taps on the window, lets the window down, and he hands me a set of drumsticks. And he's like, I love your catchphrase because I stomp on the loud pedal for a living.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm Clay Millican. He's like, I'm Nigel Olson. Nigel Olson has been Elton John's drummer for over 50 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that set of drumsticks rode in my race car for over a year. And he wrote,
That's really cool.
he signed them, and he wrote on there, stomp on that loud pedal. Well,
That's awesome.
he makes a living stomping on the loud pedal.
Yeah.
That's right.
For him, it fit too.
Yeah, the bass
Yeah.
drum there.
And it hit him in a different way than what it means to us. But those drumsticks are now in a cool, case.
Oh, yeah, you gotta
hanging
have
in
the
my
case.
hanging in my office at home.
That's
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
really cool. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
Nigel's become a great friend. Every weekend, I will get a text from him that'll say, something along the line. You got to remember, he's from England.
Yeah.
I can't do the accent. I'm sorry. I got a Southern accent. But I read those in the way he talks, and it'll say, do great things, dear boy. Love
Right.
Nige, N-I-G. Love Nige instead of Nigel. It just say,
Yeah.
it's really cool, though.
That's
he's
pretty
a good
neat.
guy.
Yeah. So you got some followers,
Yeah.
pretty big name followers for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Clay, I got one more for you, and then we're going to get into some of the topics here for the
Okay.
day. I just wanted to know, you've been in drag racing and motorsports for such a long time. What still excites you about motorsports in general? What are you looking forward to about the future of where racing, might be going?
Well, right now, I'm super excited that the world is starting to somewhat come back to normal.
Sure,
You know?
sure. I think we all are, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Going to the racetrack with unlimited capacity is starting to happen again. Our first race of the season.
Did they
this year.
have? Did they cut down a little bit for like half capacity and all that?
Every state was different.
Okay,
we had a
gotcha.
different set of rules for every state we went to last year, and it's still that way this
I feel
year.
like I watched a few races. I'm
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of fans in the stands, and then it'd be So it probably was state by state.
NHRA was the first. I don't want to say the first to come back racing, but they were first to have some fans.
Right.
Every state was different. This year, Gainesville, which is typically not our first race of the year, but it was this year, during COVID, we typically do 24 races a year. We did 11. That was weird. You know, I was home way too much. My wife travels with me, and I don't want to say this in a bad way. She was like, "Get out of here." You know, she's like, "You got to go do something," you know, and we knocked off every honey-do list thing we ever had. We've been married 30, I think we're going on 35 or 36 years this year. You know,
and you knocked them off. Hey, don't tell my wife that. Yeah. Man. I mean, we were still working on that.
But she travels with me, you know, so it was like, we got all this time. Let's just get after it. But so it's been good starting to come back, you know, to full capacity. And, you know, we raced at Indy 4 times last year. I don't want to do that. That was weird.
That's the other thing, because you've seen a lot of these events, you know, the series come back, but they'll race, like do double headers or come back to the same track multiple weekends. And you're like, oh, at least they're running. I mean, the good part is you were running. The bad part was it's like no fans and you're kind of doing the
fans. It was strange.
Very few.
It was strange.
No, it's good to see everything kind of coming back, and I'm sure Norwalk is going to be, you know,
that one's going to be really fun because Norwalk is, you know, it's known as America's track. That's kind of how they bill it. Summit Motorsports Park. They didn't race at all last year.
No.
You know, and it's a premier event. It's huge. I can't wait, you know, next weekend to see what it's
kind of the big opening to, you know, 4th of July weekend. You know, you got like that opening a summer weekend, you know, I guess.
It'll be, I expect that to be crazy. And I expect them to set world records on selling ice cream.
Right.
Well, that's
great.
There'll
be, so you heard it from Clay, there'll be world records at Norwalk
selling
for ice cream.
For ice cream. It's going to be too hot to be setting world records.
Exactly.
Well, Clay, we appreciate you answering some questions there about, you know, what's going on with you, and you know, it's super cool to hear about all the racing that you've gotten to do. And you know, speaking of the future of, you know, motorsports and the automobile industry in general, our first topic here is talking a little bit about, you know, electric vehicles versus the internal combustion engine, and kind of where that's at, because it seems, you know, EVs coming up here quick, and we're seeing a lot of OEMs like Ford and General Motors and, you know, Dodge now starting to make investments in EV. And I know from a racing standpoint, there's, you know, classes getting made specifically for EV, and stuff like Formula One, they're using both engine platforms. So, you know, I'll kick it to you first to just kind of talk a little bit about where you lie in that.
I'm over here grinning because I try not to get political that often. I do, but I try not to. I certainly don't get into Republican, Democrat. But this is sort of can kind of teeter on that political side of things. I know it's coming. I know it's good for the environment. I understand all those things. I think it's cool. NHRA is offering classes starting next year. They've worked with Ford the past couple years doing, you know, a special match race of internal combustion Mustang versus an electric Mustang. You know, they were doing that with Tony Pedregon and Bob Tasca.
Yep.
You know, that's all cool and dandy, but I'm going to be bluntly honest. I love the sound of engines running, period.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have NHRA drag racing with nothing but electric vehicles. I'm sorry. It's just not. Part of what makes drag racing what it is the
It's the sound. You feel it in the stands.
Yes.
Even on TV, you don't get the same feeling as when you're there and you feel that thunder
100%.
in your chest. That's like, I mean, it's a total thing with drag racing.
But that is where it's going to make the biggest difference, is watching on television. If you have something that really doesn't have that sound at all that you're used to, watching it's going to be that much less entertaining.
They'll make it whine. You know, they've done this with Formula E. So Formula E is their, you know, it's kind of a electric version of Formula One, kind of, and you know, they've made a lot of gear whine sounds, so you can hear them, but not really. And I've been to some electric MotoGP, like Formula E or whatever. It's like Moto E, and they have all electric bikes, right? They had, you know, they did like 8 laps, and I showed up And honestly, they were racing. I'm like, hey, what's going on? You couldn't hear them, so you can't hear them. All you hear is like the normal
the
rustle
sound
of the
shocks compressing, and tires hitting the ground,
and just people talking too much. You know what I mean? You're not being interrupted by the sound on the track.
Yeah. Right.
So it kind of took away from that.
Now, I 100% kept up with Big Daddy Don Garlett's attempting to be the first to go 200 with an electric vehicle. He ended up not doing that since it has been done. I don't even know who done it, which is horrible on my part. But it has been done. But I wasn't ever actually there when he was attempting to do it. But I watched all the videos. His daughter actually sent me a video of the last time he ran the thing, and it's weird.
Yeah,
it's just strange. You hear a little bit of electric engine kind of sound. You hear the tires screech. As it's going down the racetrack, it is odd to hear tires squealing as the track's not perfectly flat and it's gathering traction,
and it's hitting
traction,
different. You hear sounds you don't normally hear, like rocks hitting fenders or hitting different, suspension moving, and I for one hope that that there can be a mix. Yeah, let's see some electric. I mean that's all cool, but
it's coming.
It is coming. But at the same time, people still like to watch like big steam engine trains, for instance. You still want to see the spectacle, especially for people that maybe grow up without even seeing real internal combustion engines.
Yeah.
You want to see the spectacle of what that is. It's a bomb strapped to you.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be interesting, as that evolves. I mean, maybe when the old dinosaurs like us go away, then I don't know. But I'm glad that I'm the age I am, and that I'll be able to finish my career. With nitro.
Yeah, I mean,
Hemi freaking burning.
Yeah, you'll still have the nitro in the veins at that point, and I think most of we all will. I know I will. So.
I mean, I think it's going to be something that's on a much bigger level, obviously, from the OEM standpoint and your regular consumer vehicles, than it really is in racing and motorsports. Obviously, we're starting to see classes get formed, and I think it's going to become part of it to a degree. But I don't know that it's going to be a while, I think, before we see the internal combustion engine disappear from racing. And
I agree.
I guess I see it as just more of a matter of the cool thing is we've got the comparison. So when you start to see the EVs catching up in speed and range and all that kind of stuff to where they surpass the internal combustion, like a top fuel. Can you imagine an electric vehicle, the kind of electric power you'd have to surpass a top fuel dragster? I mean, you'd have to have like 10 Teslas or something, motors strapped on there more,
the batteries technology's got to come a long way. And, and that's the one thing I know NHRA's and Formula E actually, what happens when you have a problem? If you look at Formula E, they got a swimming pool. They pick the thing up by the roll cage and dump it in the pool.
Yeah.
Because you can't put it out.
No, you can't use regular types of,
fire retardant. Don't put it out. The batteries they're pretty dangerous, actually.
Yeah.
They're pretty dangerous.
I think that was part of the deal with Roman Grosjean's accident in Formula One when he had caught fire. I mean, not only did that post split the car in half, but that was also part of the battery pack too. So some of that was, you get that in the mix, and it's dangerous for sure.
Well, we're certainly on the, the edge of big changes in a lot of the, automotive world. So we'll just kind of have to see what happens there. But something that's been in place for a few years now that's, trying to protect racing and people's right to go racing and, alter vehicles specifically for racing applications is the RPM Act. And I want to give a shout out to the guys at SEMA. They've been doing a great job, showing support for that and showing support for the industry. And the industry as a whole has really come together to show support. And the nice thing is that it's gotten more support in Congress recently and a few more people in the House to back it. And I just wanted to take a minute or two to discuss, the momentum that they're seeing there for the RPM Act.
I mean, I think that it's definitely been coming for a while, but as we move down the road of more I don't know if it's more restrictions, but it's going to be harder. They're clamping down already with things like e-check and all that. There's not as much you can do as back in the 60s or even the 80s when you didn't have any. You could just bolt on whatever you wanted. For racing, we're an industry. Racing and performance. We're an industry, and we're a powerful industry, and we need to make our voices heard on that. And because we're not the numbers that is going to cause the big problems with pollution or greenhouse gases. I mean, a couple of cow farts probably equals the same amount as what we do. So
sure.
I think it's going to be one of those things that most senators and they're from every state. There's racing in every state. Are going to be pressured. If they don't believe in it now, they're going to be signing this sooner than later. So 65 already, that's a good number. So I think that'll go higher.
Well, Clay, we got to go to the racer in-house here.
I'm pretty wound up about the whole thing at the moment. I've done some other shows, and I brought this up. I posted the link and on my social media, and it was huge. A lot of people commenting, and the reason I posted it, not that I've already didn't know about it. I mean, I'm a racer. It's what I do for a living. The RPM Act's been around for a little while now. And I really got fired up about it because I'm good friends with a guy named Brent Levistat. He's got a shop in the Denver area. He's pretty big on YouTube, VFI Speed.
Okay.
His shop does a lot of tuning. They do a lot of import cars. And in November, the EPA came and audited him. It's a small shop. It's like 4 or 5 people that work there. And his YouTube is based around, most of it is tuning cars. Tuning especially like Hondas, imports, turbos, whatever.
Yeah.
And he didn't mention any of this. He's like, okay, he hadn't moved into the shop for that long a time. I think he probably felt like they're just coming to inspect his shop, and he needed to put some sound deadening up for running the dyno, that sort of thing. Well, a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, he gets this letter from the EPA, and he now owes the EPA $18,000 for some items, some parts that he did not manufacture, did not install, that he sold online through his website.
Oh, yeah.
How is that right?
No, how is that right? That's not. They're going after the wrong people, and I think, in that sense. It
just frustrates me. And I've talked to Brent. I actually connected Brent with Kyle Fickler, who's the treasurer of the board at SEMA. Mm-hmm. Brent's connected him, to other people at SEMA to look into what's going on with BFI Speed. It's so wrong to me.
Right. Because who's to say whether he sold that and it went into a race car, too?
He didn't install it.
Because, you don't know what that is.
And there is no guideline for shops.
Right.
What you can and
a lot
can't
of the
do.
diesel guys are having the same thing, too, because you've had, and especially ever since the Volkswagen thing, So the diesel guys, are getting really clamped down on. And, so now you're kind of seeing this industry, this kind of diesel hot rodding industry rise up, and they're making stuff for the track. But then some customers, of course, people are going to hot rod stuff on the street.
Well, it's the American way of life,
right?
I think it's part of what
that's what makes us innovate. The government may try to do something to clamp this, and we find another way to do it. You know what I mean? And we'll just keep going around like that.
But it's just aggravating to me that they would take a guy like Brent, small shop. They could possibly put him out of business. Well, the other side of that is if he agrees to pay this fine, he essentially can't work on cars anymore. They have put him out of business.
Yeah.
Because he sold 37 items online that he didn't install or manufacture. He simply was the middleman.
And then that's where if you're, that's...
And I'm using Brent because he's a friend, but this is happening to shops everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our industry, I'm a race car guy, and I don't manufacture parts and sell parts, but there's so many companies. There are I don't know how many hundreds, millions of people that their livelihood is based around the aftermarket.
Yep.
You know,
We're a multi-billion-dollar, I think, industry between, you know, traditional aftermarket, performance aftermarket, racing. It's a huge industry, and the government needs to look at how they're coming, you know, what they're doing to people, small businesses. They're not going after, these aren't big businesses, you know. You're not going after an Apple or a Facebook or anybody or Amazon.
PFI Speed. I mean, come on, give me a break.
Right.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going on there, but like we said at the beginning of this segment, the RPM Act is picking up a lot of support, and there's still a lot more that all you folks in the industry can do. So make sure that
SEMA.org.
Yeah. Check out SEMA. They've got a number of ways you guys can write letters or contact representatives.
I believe they have like a kind of a form letter that it'll send to your congressman.
I can tell you it's so simple. I mean, I just posted it, so I actually, it's not the first time I had signed up for it, but the form letter is all done. All you got to do is name, address, email.
Yeah.
Boom. It goes to SEMA. SEMA, absolute hats off to that organization. We as car guys think of them as the SEMA show, but what they're really there for is to protect the aftermarket.
Right, they're a lobby. Yeah. They've got to fight for our rights, you know, and that's what they've. And so, yeah, kudos to them for
100%
for taking the charge of this.
Yeah. So. Well, speaking of wanting to continue to race, not too long ago, Helio Castroneves joined some other 4-time Indy 500 winners. You know, those guys include AJ Foyt, Al Unser, Rick Mears, and now Helio joins that club as well. And he's also he's the oldest.
Is he the oldest? No, I think there was.
Sorry, fourth oldest.
Okay.
Here are my notes. To win the Indy 500. So hats off to him. It's an awesome achievement.
Yeah. Al Unser Sr., I think, was a couple years older than him when he won his fourth back in '87. So, and I remember that. So,
if I'm not mistaken, the captain let Helio go.
Yes.
I wonder how the captain felt.
The captain was like, I know. I read something somewhere that they were all the team. Tim Cindric, all the Penske guys came up and were hugging him, you know, and just like, I mean, he's still kind of a honorary part of the Penske organization. Right. And, you know, honestly, with Penske owning Indy and the track and the series, I mean, it was good for, you know, he probably should have given him a big raise and, you know, made sure he comes back for another season for sure. Right.
Yeah. So the Brazilian racer won in 2001, 2002, and 2009, and obviously this year for his fourth.
He's definitely a determined guy.
Yeah, he's 46 years old, and like we just said, fourth oldest winner. It's funny, he gave a quote after the race, you know, saying Tom Brady is still winning Super Bowls, Phil Mickelson still winning major golf
One for the old guys. I was good.
And here's Helio, you know, winning another Indy 500. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, the old guys still got it. That's
John Force won this past weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
I mean, John Force
years old.
He is. I don't. He's
as old as the engine itself.
He predates the wheel, I think.
But
John keeps winning too.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome to see it. So moving on. We want to talk a little bit about race-winning brands. You know, these guys have become a big company that's started to acquire a number of performance brands, and they've recently acquired their 8th brand in Victory One Performance, maker of valves. And just wanted to get your guys' take on, you know, what you think that means. You know, these companies kind of
there's also
becoming so powerful. But.
Yeah, they're powerful, but they're look at what their portfolio is. You know, you've got other private equity organizations that own, you know, like all vastly different types of industry, you know, organizations in different industries. At least Race Winning Brands is focused on performance, you know, and racing products. So I think it's good for the industry, and a lot of these companies are kind of, you know, some of the owners are looking to kind of retire, step back, and this is kind of a way to, you know, a succession plan in some ways. Sure. So
yeah, they've certainly done a good job with the other brands that they've currently got.
Yeah.
And I think Victory One certainly fits in that wheelhouse.
It's the
obviously.
valves we use in the top fuel car.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it really is.
How many do you go through? And I was going to ask you that you go through a lot. Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not the parts fault. It's the
No,
nitro's fault.
it's the nitro. Yeah, you're changing bearing. You have to tear it apart every round.
Valves are
you know.
consumable. Now they go
Yeah.
more than one run, but
Okay.
they don't go for
They don't
a
go very
season.
far. Are they?
Yeah.
Do you guys have the filled sodium filled, or are they?
I'm not going to tell you that.
Oh, yeah, but you go through a lot of parts.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
especially so it's fun as a fan to go there. I remember the first one I went to, watching your guys tear down something. You're like, it's amazing to watch how fast they
It's
can do
incredible.
You
It
know,
is
it's
orchestrated chaos.
it. Exactly,
It really is.
It is. Yeah.
I've done it forever and ever and ever, but I'm still fascinated to watch. You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's one thing that makes drag racing so great is fan accessibility and the opportunity to watch what is essentially a pit stop, but it's a complete engine rebuild.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
There's not a lot of people that get to see the inside of an engine and then go back together and fire up within
An hour.
Yeah, an hour.
Right.
And it's always fun to watch them fire up. Get the guy, your crew chief with the gas mask on, and he's got that thing.
Yeah.
And then you always have the nitro heads behind there just sucking it up.
Oh yeah, and you can tell the first timers because they stand there with and they start crying and then they start running away.
Yeah.
It's drag racing is definitely fan friendly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
That's
it's very cool that you use Victory One valves.
Yep.
We
We have for a long time actually. Victory makes a really really good product,
Yeah.
and it is the world's changing a little bit. You're seeing that. I mean, you look at Comp and Edelbrock now one and.
Yep.
Yeah, they're the mergers. I think they're bound to happen as long as it doesn't all become one company. If they're all owned by Amazon, I guess they're all going to be.
Yeah. Well, like Clay pointed out, Victory One makes quality products, and I think Race Winning Brands is a great fit for it. And we'll see how that continues here. Now, Clay, we touched on COVID a little bit and staying home a little too much more,
Yes.
more than most people want, obviously. But something that's come out of it is, a lot of offices and businesses are keeping some stay-at-home, things in place. And NHRA is actually one of those companies that said, hey, we learned something from the pandemic, and they've currently put their headquarters up for sale because they've got a certain amount of staff that doesn't need to be there. And so again, I just wanted to touch on this. They're using the Indianapolis location at Lucas Oil Raceway as kind of their primary spot now versus this old headquarters. But
may get me in trouble, but this is something they should have done years ago.
Okay.
The sport has moved to the Indy area, most in particular Brownsburg, Indiana.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huge majority of the nitro cars are there. There's not, but man, one or two teams based in Southern California anymore.
It's too hard to go. You've got so many races. Indy's really that
Very
great
centrally located.
location, and plus you've got all that workforce
Right there that are race oriented,
centered.
and
they know it.
they know it. It's probably going to be a little odd, that they're.
Yeah.
I guess they may still be based in Glendora, but it's
They
going to
could
be
lease it, I guess.
Yeah.
Lease it back or part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
part
a
of
big
part of their
facility.
sale that includes the possibility of leasing some of the space still.
Yeah.
I just was wondering, is that a sign of bad things for NHRA? Like, is this
don't-
a sign of them trying to downsize things, or is this more like right sizing it?
I
as
think
far
it's
as,
right sizing it.
Yeah.
It's tradition there. I mean, certainly the NHRA
Yeah.
started there. Wally Park started all that there. But when your industry has moved, you gotta move
gotta
with
go
the
where they
industry.
are, yeah.
You got to go with the industry, and they've already got the facility there at Indy. They've got a new building that's already been there. They own the property there.
Yeah.
And let's face it, property values in California are pretty high.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
they could
it's-
get yeah.
As far as the NHRA goes, I think drag racing as a whole is as strong as it's ever been. The popularity of drag racing is huge. The Fox Sports 1 numbers are massive. They're bigger than they've ever been. And, sometimes I probably get a little frown from Glendora, but the TV show Street Outlaws has brought drag racing even further out into the public.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Without any question, has helped every small little drag strip all around the United States because, young people are tuning in to watch Street Outlaws and they're like, I don't condone street racing at all because what they do on that television show is not street racing.
No, and that's not real.
That's reality TV. How many street races you ever seen where they got portable lights and ambulances on site? But what it has done is make young people go, man, that looks pretty cool. And they're going to their local racetrack and they're racing their street car.
Yeah,
because they can buy parts for it. Sign the RPM
Parts
Act.
Plus,
sign the RPM Act. So
we should have, every drag strip ought to have that right at the gate.
They really should.
Part of the ticket or something.
Yeah, exactly. When you sign in, you
sign the RPM Act.
Sign the
as
RPM
you go
Act,
in
exactly.
and go out on the track then. And, but you're right. I think that you've got shows like that have raised the awareness of drag racing in general. Even though, and most people know it's fake, although,
the racing's real. I'm really good friends with a lot of those guys. The racing is 100% real.
But it's just how they set it up.
Yeah, the street racing is
some back. You're not just trying to. Where's Roscoe at? So you can get away with it. It's all been closed down and sanctioned basically. But you can go to your local track for $20-$40 and
make all the
laps.
Runs. Yeah, exactly.
So why even bother street racing? Go do it where it's safe.
Yeah. No, it's great to see the sport healthy like it is, and Clay, to your point, I think Indy is just the better spot for NHRA right now, so that's kind of where they're going, and they've learned things throughout the pandemic that they don't need that other location as much. So. Hats off to them for figuring some of that out and going with it.
100% agree.
Our last topic today, Clay, we wanted to touch on with you a little bit about the sponsorship change with NHRA, with Camping World coming in, and longtime sponsor Mellow Yellow, leaving.
Coca-Cola.
Is it still as good as it was? Is Camping World kept up with what Coca-Cola was able to do, and how is it for you?
That's a tough one to answer because you have the pandemic, Coca-Cola leaves, they cut our purse structure. Do you blame Camping World? Do you blame Coke? Or do you blame COVID?
Or do you
the three C's. The three C's.
Yeah.
COVID, Camping World, Coke. Our sport, unlike NASCAR, we're not based around a television package that pays the race teams. NHRA doesn't have that. We're a fan-driven sport. I have no answer for that.
So they don't have any, like NHRA doesn't have like appearance money then for the top teams.
You got to qualify.
You got to qualify.
You got to qualify.
Yeah.
And they have money for No, you basically, the purses have been decimated, to be honest with you. But, we've never looked at the purses as how we're going to pay for racing the car. It's Parts Plus, it's the people that we work with. That's how the programs work. And most racing is that way, NASCAR included. But so back to your, I think it was the weirdest way a sponsorship has ever come about that was done through Twitter.
Yeah.
Marcus Lemonis post on Twitter, hey, NHRA, whatever, here I am.
Yeah.
And a deal got put together essentially through Twitter, which is very, very, I've never heard of such thing.
Very 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very 2020.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as the racing goes, we haven't, I think it's wonderful Camping World joined us. What happened with Coca-Cola is I don't know. It turned into a lawsuit.
Yeah, it was very sudden. And
it was very, very sudden. I think some of that is definitely COVID related. Again, I don't know none of the particulars, period, but I think a huge part of it, and I didn't really think about it, somebody else, I think Doug Stringer, my team owner, pointed this out, that like 47% of Coca-Cola's business is the taps at
restaurants.
The taps at baseball games,
That's what
at
I've
concerts, at drag races, whatever the case may be. And you shut that spigot off all of a sudden, that's a lot of your business.
Yeah, they don't make a lot of money from just making bottled products.
Yeah,
it's mostly all the fountain drinks at the restaurants.
Yeah, that's where the margins are for selling the syrups and the fountains. Hey, it's awesome to see Camping World step in.
100% agree.
Keep the NHRA going.
The TV package is still great.
Oh, it is.
I think that I like how it comes on. Like, I mean, I can watch it at night. There seems they've packaged it very well.
And it's been some massive events that NHRA and Fox has done some really, really great things, coming straight out of a NASCAR race into one of our races later this year.
So that piggybacks some of those fans.
On Big Fox, there's some of the events are FS1, some are on Mother Fox.
Yeah.
Later this year, you're going to come out of an NFL football game right into an NHRA drag race. That's
nice.
So television numbers have been huge, which is fantastic for Parks Plus and Walmart and everybody that's involved on our team.
Really pays the bills.
That's really what pays the bills. Exactly.
The purse is good, and I think back in the old days, NHRA was run on those guys. You had to make enough money to get to the next race and do all. They didn't have
now don't think we don't need it.
Well, yeah,
because it's a huge. It is a huge income that we all took a hit on. But NHRA took a hit as well. Because limited capacity fans. But like I said, that's starting to come back around, starting to get more normal.
Yeah.
Overall, NHRA and drag racing is doing very well.
Yeah. Well, that's great and awesome way to end today's show. So, Brendan, as always, thank you. Clay, big thank you to you being here in person today and joining us and adding to the show here. So I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it.
And, of course, we want to thank all you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys all next time. Thanks.